Hi, this is Rachel at Food, Travel, etc. And I am giving a book review on two books I read, and there's two books I didn't read, and I'll explain why I didn't really feel like reading those two books. Well, the first book I did read is Cold Mountain. And this book I really enjoyed, and I thought it was very different in every aspect. Like in the sense of compared to the movie and the book. And that's something I did really, really like. I imagined each character so differently than in the book. My favorite part of Cold Mountain, and I quote, is the business of carrying hats halfway around the world to sell them made no sense to her. It marked a lack of seriousness in a person that they could think about such matters. There was not one thing in a place like France or New York or Charleston that Ruby wanted, and little she even needed that she couldn't make or grow or find on Cold Mountain. She held a deep distrust of travel, whether to Europe or anywhere else. Her view was that a world properly put together would yield inhabitants so suited to their lives in their assigned places that they wouldn't have neither need nor wish to travel. No stagecoach or railway or steamship would be required. All such vehicles would sit idle. Folks would, out of utter contentment, choose to stay home, since the failure to do so was patently the root of many ills, currently and historic. In such a stable world, she envisioned some might live many happy years, hearing the bay of distant neighbor's dog, and yet never venture out far enough from their own field to see whether the yap was from hound or setter, plain or pied. Okay, so that is the quote. I would totally recommend this book. After that, I looked at reading Day After Night by Anita Dumont. I know I'm messing up her last name, but Diamond? Anyways, I was looking at reading this book, which I decided not to read because I think it is terrible. The Nazis persecuted and executed Jewish citizens, but I also find it horrible that Palestine was taken over also. So that's a reason why I was conflicted about reading this book. So that's why I stopped and said, no. It seems like a well-written book, but I was more conflicted over it. I love historical books and I love history, but I just couldn't get into it. The other book I decided not to read was called The Last Lecture, and it is by Randy Pausch, I think. I'm really bad. I'm just bastardizing names. Posh? Anyways, just look up The Last Lecture. I decided not to read this book because during this time of COVID-19, I didn't want to think of death and what lessons I could leave for my daughter or family members. I just thought it's too sad to think about right now. It's a book I think I would maybe read 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but just not right at this moment. It looks like, again, another well-written book, but just not at this time. The next book I read, or the book I'm reading right now, is called Sins of the Mother by Irene Kelly, which is a very moving true story about Irene, a child in the 1960s who lives in Dublin, who is physically, mentally, and sexually abused. And as she matures, and this is happening as she matures and grows up, and there is a mother who despises her and beats her, and a Catholic orphanage where she's physically and mentally and sexually abused. The story carries on into her adulthood, where Irene has to fight her demons. I don't want to tell much more. I have less than 100 pages to read, and it is a very engrossing book, and I would very much recommend it. And I want to thank you for listening to me and to my book review. And I want to thank you for listening to Love, Food, Travel, etc. I hope you have a good weekend and a good week. Thank you. Bye.